From 1800 to 1900 and other years, basically nobody ever put much stock in aircraft, as they say. I mean, if you look at the logs or the diaries, most people would be like, "I wouldn't put much stock in those aircraft." Nobody ever saw aircraft as a viable means of transportation, and they'll even tell you that. They'll even say that it's not a viable means of transportation, or it's not reliable enough. The wind picks them up and tosses them around. They're no good. Nobody ever thought that real aircraft that there would be substantial aircraft travel, or aircraft of substantial size. They all looked at aircraft as this crazy, basically like dumping money inside of a pit. If you go back and you look at the logs or the records of the videos, you'll hear a lot of people saying that aircraft, there's no money in it. It'll never amount to anything. And you'll hear a lot of that. And I did not believe that. Like I said, I built the Titanic and am the master-in-chief of White Star Lines, shipping, manufacturing, and other things. And and a lot of people had told me, I mean, I've heard a lot that it'll never amount to anything, just like steam travel, or shipping. They never thought that ships would ever amount to anything. And then I built lots of wooden ships, and then I built lots of bigger ships like the Titanic, and I was rich. Okay. So then, and I had a lot of steam engines, and everyone loves steam engines because, they could run on fat, they could run on alcohol, they could run on tar. Like I say, I mean, you could take some tar, add some alcohol to it, and mix it up, and put it in there, and the engine would run just fine on that. On the diesel engines, they would say multi-fuel, which would mean basically whale oil, fat, alcohol, tar, just about anything that'll burn. You could shove through one of my engines, and it would burn it and run it and go just fine. Even gas, like you could practically fart in them, and they would actually run. So nobody ever put but nobody ever put any stock in aircraft or flight except for me. I had a valid wing design, and like I said, I had lots of people working on making them fly, and I had lots of ideas. All I needed was the better material. So I was investing huge amounts, like everybody would probably say how the White Star Lines or someone was investing huge amounts of money into diesel engines and flight, trying to get an aircraft off the ground. And I had lots of people competing, lots of people doing stuff, and basically nobody ever thought it was going to amount to anything, and they thought I was crazy. I was ridiculous. I was paying people for a whole year to come up with aircraft, or to make a bigger aircraft, or mostly I was waiting for the more powerful engine. The engines needed to get lighter, faster, stronger, and a lot more powerful, and they weren't there yet, but they were getting there. And we were mining and doing other things. Besides, like I said, I had plague. I had real concerns. My trains needed brakes. A lot of things. There was a lot of things that were going on in my life besides flight. So I kind of had flight on the back burner, but I was still the leader of flight, basically, and flight research. I had airplanes going here and there, and they were doing some things. I mean, like combat in Africa, stuff like that. Aircraft actually did do something. We finally got some good aircraft and got some good engines, but nothing substantial. But I was dumping huge amounts of money into them. I mean, huge amounts of money. I was paying people for a whole year. I was buying people's aircraft, and people were like, "What? Are you nuts?" But I was using my money from the White Star Steamline ship company. So I was putting it all into flight. I knew that flight was possible. I knew that flight was a reality, and I knew that someday flight would get there. Which, like I said, just like the White Star Line thing, and even mining and shipping, I knew that eventually flight would get there, and when it did, I was going to be on top of it, and I was going to be number one, because I was going to be the first. So I was dumping huge amounts of money. I mean, huge amounts, so like whole countries worth of money into perfecting flight, and when it got there, I was going to be the one. So that's why, just like with the Titanic and other things, I mean, and like a lot of people didn't think that aircraft could ever could ever penetrate the armor of a tank. They thought that the armor of a tank was too strong. And it's like, well, not really. If you can get the cannon up into the air and fire it, then you can do that. And I had some aircraft that could do that. So, like I say, the Mosquito and other things, I had been writing the basically, Titanic, and then getting better and better aircraft. And then finally I hit that stride where I was like, because I was the one that had the aircraft. So I was the one with the power and the money and everything else. So that's why I became, well, I was already Lucifer, so that's why I stayed on top, basically. But it's because, I don't know, nobody thought that aircraft would ever do anything. They never thought it would amount to anything. Just like they never thought computers would ever amount to anything. They said, oh, who needs a calculator? You can use Abacus or a slide rule. Why? It's like, well, you never know. It's just another thing, it's like, well, just like everything else, I'm going to be the one. So I was dumping huge amounts of money into computers, into technology, into lasers. Like lasers. We started out with just light bulbs and stuff like that, trying to get a focused beam of light. And then, working on with that from there, from focused beams of light using light bulbs to something more. And like I said, at some point in time, that's when the researchers started to kick in, when I mean, just like the Titanic, just like with everything else, just like with building the cities, it's an investment. You believe in it, and then you just do it, and you just keep going with it. Like I said, White Star didn't go bankrupt. What happened was basically they wanted to repossess my ships. They wanted to take away my ships and stuff, and they wanted to change the laws, and they wanted to make it so women had no rights. So women always had rights on the water with the White Star Titanic, White Star line shipping. My stewardess always had equal rights. My ships always had equal rights. I did not waver with my female rights. In fact, I praised females as one of the higher species, and basically protected them and paid them equal wages, or fairly equal wages, depending. But basically equal. I mean, if they wanted a raise, I would have. I always gave it to them. Whatever. It's like they're more than. I mean, I knew that I had faith in them. Like I said, I've always had faith in children. I've always had faith in even in old people. I had faith in old people one time. I mean, when other people are like, "What's the point of having old people around?" I was like, "They're old. They know a lot of stuff. No, let's give them a technical job, engineering or something like that. Something where they're not reliant on their bodies anymore, where they're directing younger people, teaching people, and stuff like that. And hugely successful again. All my old people, my old people rocked. Like I said, my children were amazing. My old people were amazing. I used every bit of everyone. I never said, oh no, that's not going to work out, or no, they're a waste of time. I mean, even my blind people, I had blind people that changed things and were a huge part of everything I was. So, I use blind people. I hired blind people. I hired blind people for jobs. I hired the deaf for jobs. Or lots of different people. Like I hired everyone. Like I said, my concentration camps and my work sites, we took everyone in and we cleaned them up and then we used them the best way possible. And that is what really made the White Star Alliance White Star. Because it never ever turned its back on anyone necessarily, at least not wrongfully. Black people, South Africa was like, you're trying to kill me. No. But in general, like everyone that wanted an opportunity, that wanted to try, and even some people that didn't want to try, they were there for a reason. They were there to make a difference. And we did make a difference. So, and I was really proud of that. And I've done that with other races as well. But with White Star Lines, that's what all this is too. It's White Star Lines, it's protecting, it's feeding, it's everything I did, all my crazy projects. And having faith in things like flight. And then, then I owned Boeing 747s. And I'm the king of the skies, basically. Because I had faith in people and technology. So anyway, that's what made me me.